Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today I would like to discuss about model serving in Databricks. What is the meaning of model serving? Model serving is nothing but creating an endpoint to our model so that we can pass on the data and query it directly from the table using the select statement or from REST API or from Python SDK. So these are the options it supports. I'll explain you each and everything and how do we serve our model which we have built. I'll show that as well. So let's go. If you go to Databricks and if you come to this serving section, right now we already have some models. These are like LLMs, llama, mistral AI and all those meta models and all, which we can directly use. But the intention of this video is to show our own custom model. Okay, right now if I go to my catalog, I have a model under my catalog inside ML schema, and I want to serve this model. I want to create an endpoint to this model so that I can input the data and predict the value in different ways, like directly in the select statement or through some API or from some Python Python code. So let's see that. See, I already have the model and I'll show you how do we create this model as well in this same tutorial. But if you want to know more about how to create a model in Databricks and how do you integrate that with ML flow and everything, I have already made a video on that. You can view that video. Okay. So now let's go to serving, model serving, and click on create serving endpoint. And we have to give some name here, which I have given random forest classifier endpoint hyphen UI. This is the name. And I need to select the model, right? So it supports many external models like Amazon Bedrock, OpenAI and all those as well, LLMs as well. But we want our own Unity catalog model. So if you see, I have already have one in my Unity catalog. So that is populated here. That's it. I need to select that model. And after selecting the model, it will ask you whether you want to serve that model on GPU or CPU. I'll go with CPU now. And what is the size? I want to go with small. I want to scale it to 0 as well if no one is using it. And enable tracing. That means how many requests have come, how many times it has been triggered, what is the latency, and everything can be traced if you click on this checkbox. That's one point. And also you have the option to click on add served model. If you see here, when you click on this and if you select some other model here, not the same model, so that whenever this endpoint is being triggered through API or so through Python code or through select statement, if you give the distribution here 70-30 or 50-50, accordingly the request will be redirected based on the traffic percentage you give. If you give 70 here, the 70% comes to this model and 30% goes to another model. Like that you can create a number of models and distribute the traffic. That's one way, but right now I'll give only one. That's it. And I'll go to inference table. Inference table you need to enable if you want to trace everything. Like what an inference table does is it creates a table in our Unity catalog. So the columns in that inference table will be all this. What is the request ID? What is the client request ID? Date, timestamp, status code, like whether it gave the response or not. And all this kind of response, what is the response it has given, what is the request information we got, what is the metadata, request metadata, all this kind of information will be traced if you just enable this option. So it creates a table in our Unity catalog and stores all that information. So where do I want to store? I want to store in my Unity catalog. So I'll just select that and name it's optional or else it creates. So the name I have chosen as random forest inference and it creates a table name with underscore payload appended. That this will be in a table, inference table, and inside which all the requests and everything will be traced. That's it. So this is how we serve the model from the UI. So when you click on create, it redirects to this page, and here it takes some time to serve this model. Like it creates an endpoint now. So we can query that endpoint. If you want to query also, you can query from here as well by giving request and response. They gave us some sample data as sample. They gave us some sample as well on how to query. So we can give that and click on send request. The send request gets enabled once this endpoint gets up and running. So it takes some time. Meanwhile, let's go to the notebook and check how we can create a model. Okay, which is very basic. We can do that. And how we can store that model in our Unity catalog, how we can register that model in our Unity catalog, and how we can create an endpoint from the code as well. So let's go and look into that. Okay, let's go to workspace. This is the notebook which I have created. If you see here, I'm just importing the required libraries, and I'm just reading the iris data, and I would like to label the type of the flower it is. That's it. I'm just going with the very simple example here. So that's it. I'm just reading the data frame and creating these are the hyper parameters I want to use for this random forest algorithm, and this I'm just splitting the data. This is not needed. And if you see here, this is an ML flow topic. If you want more information on ML flow, I've already made a video and you can view that. So what am I doing? I'm just registering, saying that I want to register it in the Unity catalog Databricks enabled workspace, not on the normal Databricks. So if you have normal Databricks, you'll give like this. If it is Unity catalog enabled, you give underscore hyphen UC. That's it. I'm just starting the run, and I'm giving the run name here as random forest classifier. Okay, and I'm initializing the model and using the hyperparameters I've given over there, and I'm fitting, I'm predicting, I'm calculating two metrics, accuracy and F1 score, and I'm logging everything in our ML flow. So if using ML flow, we can track everything. I'll show you that as well. So if I'm just logging the hyperparameters, I'm logging the metrics, both the metrics which I've created, and I'm logging the model as well finally. Okay, when logging the model, it asks for some sample data. So I'm just doing ilog with only one record. That's it. If you see, this is an SK model, and this is the artifact, I mean, where the metadata of this needs to be stored, and this is where I need to register the model in ML schema, which I have already run. So you have seen that model here. I'll just rerun it again. So this is how you register the model using ML flow in our Unity catalog. And why did we add ML flow here? We are just registering the model here using this particular parameter, which is fine. But why do you need ML flow? So ML flow tracks each and everything. It tracks the life cycle of the machine learning model development. So if I go to experiments now, if you see, this command is run successfully. So if I go to experiment, the same notebook name, the run which we have done is this one 36 seconds ago, and we named this name. And if you see here, what are the hyper parameters we have used, it has tracked. What are the metrics we have used, we have calculated, it has tracked. So everything, all the model metrics, I mean the diagrams of that, and everything can be tracked here. If you want more detail about ML flow, you can check my previous video, which is fine. Now if we go to this notebook, it is taking still some time to create an endpoint, which we have done through UI. So now here I'm just trying to get the API root key and API token as well. We using these commands, we can get the root key and token of my workspace. Now before we have seen on how to create an endpoint using UI, right? This is what we have seen. Now we can even create an endpoint directly from the code as well. So if you come here, I'm just registering, saying Unity catalog enabled workspace, and I'm just creating a client. That's it. And using that client, I'm creating the endpoint. Inside the create endpoint, we need to pass all the parameters. What is the name of the endpoint? The one which you have created through UI has -UI. Here I don't have -UI. That's it. And what are the details? What is the entity name? I mean, entity name is the model name which we have created above here, which I have shown as well previously. The same path, Unity catalog path I have given. That's it. What kind of workload size you want? You want to scale it to 0 when no one is using it? Yes, true. And traffic routing, we have seen, right? When creating that, like, we can add another model, second model as well, and we can route the traffic by giving the percentage, like 70% over there, 30% over there, or 50-50, something like that. So right now I have only one, so I have given only one details. And also auto capture config. This parameter is what is used to create the inference table. So we want to capture that. And what is the catalog name, schema name, table prefix? So I mean the information which we have given here. Inference table is not ready, but we have given there. What is the inference table information while creating that? That's it. But right now I don't want it because it costs more. So I'll just remove this and I'll just run it. So it creates an endpoint again with the name this one. Okay, if I go to runs and if I go to serving here, we should see two. One which we just created through code 10 seconds ago, one which we have created through UI. This is UI and this is without UI key in the suffix. That's it. So we have two endpoints now. Like I'm just trying to show you how we can create, but I'll delete this. We don't need this anymore. So I'll just delete this. I don't want to create because it costs again. So I deleted. Right now we have only, it takes some time to get up and running, like almost 15 to 20 minutes. So that's it. So we saw how we create an endpoint through Python code. So now using API also we can create an endpoint. So how do we create using API? So we just need to give them endpoint name, all the same information which we have given above, and we need to create a header for that response, and we need to just post it. We have the API root here, API token here. So it directly goes and creates the another endpoint if you run this. But I don't want to do this right now because it again costs. We have already created endpoint. We'll use that as well. If you see here, this is up and running. It is up and running and we can query it. We'll do that. So we have seen three ways to create endpoint for the model which we have. One is using UI, second is using Python code, and this is the third option using API. So these are the three ways using which we can create an endpoint for the model so that anyone can query it. Like how can we query it? Using REST API, using Python code, or using select statement, which we are going to see right now. So this is the Python code with which we predict the data from the endpoint. Here I have the wrong endpoint name. So I would like to change this endpoint name to this one. So I'll just run this. And now what am I doing? I'm just creating a data frame here literally with two rows, and these are the column names in my data frame which we have seen here. I guess I did not display the data, which we know this is an iris data set. So these are the column names. I'm just taking two rows out of it and trying to get the response. Okay. So when I run it, we got the prediction. So these two are of class 0. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3. There are 4 types of classes if you see here. So for the input parameter which we have given, it is classified as 0 label. That's it. 0 means some kind of flower, 1 means some kind of flower, 2 means another kind of flower. That's it. So I'm just trying, the intention of this video is to show you how we serve the model and how we query the endpoint. That's it, not on model training and stuff. So I'm not concentrating on that much. We have another option to query along with the Python code which we have seen above. That one is using API. So I'm just giving the data in the dictionary format. So I'm just giving the index, the column names, and the 2 sample rows. So it has to predict the label 0, 1, 2. Whatever it is based on this input information. Above it has predicted 0, 0. So let's see what it predicts here. And this is just calling an API using the request model from Python. That's it. I'm just printing the response. That's it. If you see here, it's 0, 0. Same as above, which is fine. So the third option is we can even query using the AI query. Okay. So the third option is to query the model from the SQL or using the SQL statement. Using the AI query method, we have AI query method inside which we need to give the endpoint name, the actual text which we want to pass it to that endpoint, and the return type. We get the return type as label and the score. How much is the prediction score? This kind of information. So this is how we run it using the select statement. The only difference is using the AI query. That's it. So if we come here, we can, when you create an endpoint, and we can even query it from the UI as well. So when you click on query endpoint, if you see here, when you click on reset example, it literally creates a sample data on how we need to pass it to this endpoint, not model, endpoint. So here if you see, it is using this data frame script. If you have observed, even everywhere, wherever we have used similar kind of input data. It expects the input data in this format only. So when calling from API or when calling from Python code, we have followed the same approach. So even here, if you see column names and data, and the top hierarchy should be data split. It's a standard format which we follow. So when I do this, it predicts as 0. When I do is 5, it predicted as 0. So this is how we can even query it from this UI as well. So this is how we serve the model which we have created. Serving the model is nothing but creating an endpoint. That's it. So after creating an endpoint, we have three options. One is to query it using SQL statement, to query it using API, and to query it using Python code. That's it. Sorry guys, I have missed one thing to show. Like we have created an inference tables and we did not view the data in the inference table. So if we go to catalog, and if we where have we stored in ML schema. If you go, we have the extra tables here. See, this is the inference table which we have created through UI. See, if we see, we can even view the data as well. So if you see the client requested, we did not pass anything, so it is null. And the Databricks request ID, UUID, when the timestamp, the status code, if I got anything as in errors, if I got successful status code 200, how many milliseconds it took, with which we can calculate the latency. And this is the request I have made with the data, and this is the response I have received. For the status codes 200, I got the bad request as well. So this is how we can view the inference table as well. That's it guys. Thank you so much for watching.